I arrived at Pinewatch Campground just after dusk, my ancient Toyota coughing out smoke as it rattled down a dirt road nestled deep within thick pines. My hands gripped the wheel, aching from the long drive, tension and desperation tight in my chest. The air felt oppressive here, thick with damp, earthy, sense-rotting leaves mingled with moss-covered wood. Through my cracked window drifted the incessant hum of cicadas and faint, unsettling whispers carried by the breeze. Taking this job had been an act of pure necessity. Rent was overdue, job prospects dried up, and the obscure ad promising generous pay for minimal labor had seemed too good to pass up. I parked beside the main lodge, a rustic cabin sagging under the weight of decades. Its windows, yellowed and fogged, glowed dimly, hinting at life within. Stepping out, my boots crunched loudly over gravel, echoing strangely in the dusk's eerie quiet. The cabin door opened suddenly, revealing a gaunt older man whose sunken eyes studied me with unsettling intensity. He stepped closer, his footsteps silent, movements oddly graceful despite his age. "Welcome," he murmured, voice deep, almost a whisper. "I'm Jonas, caretaker here. You must be the new hire." I nodded, heart strangely quickening as Jonas pressed into my hands a worn notebook. Its leather cover cracked with age. "Read this carefully," Jonas said, eyes locked onto mine. "Everything you need to survive is inside." He vanished into the darkness before I could respond, leaving me alone in oppressive silence. Confused but intrigued, I settled into my provided quarters-o cramped cabin on the campground's edge. The small space smelled of damp cedar and mildew, a chill hanging persistently in the air. Cracks spiderwebbed the walls, cold air seeping in steadily. I shivered despite my heavy coat. The notebook sat heavy in my lap. Flipping it open, I squinted at cramped handwriting that filled every page. Stark black ink seeming to pulse urgently against faded paper. Rule number 1. After sundown, never answer a knock at your door. Whatever knocks isn't human. Rule number 2. If you see lantern lights deep in the woods after midnight, never follow them, they'll lead you astray. Rule number 3. When walking trails, always mark your path with red thread. Trust no other markings. Rule number 4. If whispers come from the trees, hum softly and keep moving. Acknowledge them, and they'll know you. Rule number 5. If fog rolls in unexpectedly, seek shelter immediately. Lock all doors and windows. Ignore anything you hear outside until it lifts. I chuckled nervously, dismissing the rules as rustic superstition. Still, the strange severity of Jonas's tone lingered uneasily in my mind. The notebook oddly heavy in my hands. My skepticism shattered abruptly during my second night. I lay awake beneath scratchy wool blankets, listening to wind creak through ancient pine branches, when a sharp knock rattled the flimsy door, slicing harshly through the silence. Knock, knock, knock. Instantly, cold dread tightened around my chest. I remembered rule number 1, absurd yet now painfully relevant. Adrenaline surged, hotly, fingers trembling as I clutched the covers. Instinct urged me to answer, to dismiss fear and confront the absurdity head-on. Knock. Knock. This time, softer, more insistent. An unnatural chill seeped through the door, frosting my breath. Then, a gentle voice murmured softly, achingly familiar. "It's me, please open up, it's freezing." My heart jolted violently, recognition flooded through me. My sister's voice, impossible, she'd been gone 3 years now, lost to a car wreck, miles from here. Yet her voice sounded exactly as it always had, warm yet slightly pleading, infinitely genuine. "Please, let me in," it continued gently, pain lacing the words. "I need your help." My throat tightened, grief and confusion, overwhelming rational thought. I reached instinctively toward the door handle. My fingertips brushed cold metal, then, abruptly, Jonas's rules flashed vividly through my mind, cutting like ice through confusion. Never answer after sundown. Whatever knocks isn't human. I recoiled, breath quickening, heart drumming erratically. The voice outside, sensing hesitation, shifted subtly, now tinged with urgency, faint distortion beneath softness. "Please, hurry," it said, voice deeper, subtly wrong. "They're coming for me." Tears blurred my vision, frustration warring with terror. I pressed shaking palms against my ears, squeezing eyes shut, desperately fighting the urge to open that damned door. The knocking intensified abruptly, violent, demanding, then suddenly ceased, leaving deafening silence behind. I waited, paralyzed, for hours, sleepless until dawn finally broke through gray clouds, chasing shadows away. Trembling, I stumbled outside into daylight, breath fogging the crisp morning air. grateful yet shaken. On the doorstep lay dozens of muddy handprints, deeply imprinted as if clawed into place. Days blurred together, each night deepening my unease. Fear became routine, intimately woven into my every breath, each rule ingrained deeply in my consciousness by necessity. Yet every incident sharpened my senses, slowly awakening an inner discipline I never knew existed. One evening on patrol near the edge of the forest, mist crept stealthily through trees, tendrils curling toward me like ghostly fingers. Instantly recalling rule number 5, panic surged violently. I sprinted back to my cabin, slamming doors shut, hastily locking every window latch. Outside, fog enveloped the campground fully, turning trees into shadowy, monstrous shapes. My heart thundered painfully. Footsteps shuffled softly outside. Voices murmured indistinctly, strange yet enticingly familiar. I waited, locked inside, resisting temptation to glance through blinds, refusing to acknowledge whispers calling my name. Gradually, hours later, the fog retreated, leaving behind faint, chilling laughter echoing distantly in the trees. Days became weeks. Weeks became a quiet battle of discipline against relentless horror. My skepticism vanished entirely, replaced by disciplined vigilance. Each sunrise marked another victory. Each sunset became another round in a terrifying game where failure equaled oblivion. Yet, despite constant dread, something profound shifted within me. Fear transformed slowly into determination, each encounter honing my resolve, each night testing and solidifying my psychological resilience. But deep down, I understood intuitively that Campground had only begun to test me, and the true terror still awaited. Hidden in dark places of Pine Watch, waiting patiently for the moment I finally faltered. Weeks passed, blurring into a relentless cycle of dread and survival. Pine Watch Campground, initially picturesque, transformed into a deceptive prison, an alluring landscape masking unimaginable horrors. Each sunrise brought fleeting relief, yet I knew intimately that nightfall brought inevitable terror, pushing me deeper into disciplined vigilance. My mornings were spent marking trails meticulously, with red thread, following rule number 3 with religious fervor. Trees stood sentinel, their dark bark slick with dew, branches heavy with moss, like ancient guardians watching my every move. On one chillingly crisp morning, I noticed strange, unfamiliar carvings etched into trunk symbols that made my stomach clench inexplicably. These were not random vandalism, but deliberate markings, warnings, or perhaps invitations. I hurriedly passed them, keeping my eyes forward, heart racing with wary dread. By midday, I patrolled perimeter paths, ears acutely tuned to slightest shifts in the natural soundscape. The forest, unnaturally silent at times, was occasionally punctuated by distant rustling, soft, deliberate footsteps pacing just beyond view. Leaves whispered incessantly, disguising murmurs that felt unsettlingly intentional. Then came the nights. Darkness transformed the campground utterly. The deep, velvet black sky rarely offered starlight, replaced by oppressive clouds that smothered moonlight. Shadows thickened dramatically, spilling outward as though reaching to touch me, to claim me. Lantern lights, soft golden orbs, occasionally flickered deep within the forest, tempting lures, beckoning me to stray from safe paths, taunting my disciplined adherence to rule #2. One night, driven by a fleeting, dangerous curiosity, I paused on a trail's edge, staring into distant lights, bobbing rhythmically among dark trunks. Each sway mesmerized me, whispering silent promises of escape, or perhaps revelation. Without consciously deciding, my foot drifted forward, crunching leaves softly, betraying my resolve. The lights brightened subtly, welcoming. My chest filled, suddenly with warmth, yearning, dangerously compelling. Then a sharp sting jolted my palm. Instinctively, I glanced down to find a stray branch had scratched my skin deeply, pain snapping my attention. Instantly awake, clearing the fog from my mind, heart slamming in panic, I stumbled backward, the lights flickering angrily before extinguishing entirely, leaving me breathless and trembling beneath oppressive darkness. Another near mistake, another grim reminder. Discipline was survival. My resolve strengthened further after an incident near the lake. Late one afternoon, fog rolled swiftly across water surfaces, tendrils reaching hungrily for shorelines, an unnatural speed turning peaceful beauty into immediate threat. Recalling rule number 5, I bolted toward shelter, a small storage shed positioned closer than my cabin. Inside, walls dripped with moisture, reeking of mildew and decay. I locked the flimsy door hurriedly, lungs heaving as the fog thickened rapidly. Outside, breath ragged, I crouched low, desperately avoiding eye-level windows that shivered beneath unseen pressure. Outside, whispers multiplied, countless voices merging in eerie symphony pleas, demands, threats weaving together in chaotic madness. We know you're there, ... Please, come out. It hurts so badly, ... Let us in, join us. My fingers dug painfully into my palms, grounding me through sharp sensation. Fear pulsed hotly beneath my skin, yet I forced myself into rhythmic breathing, my thoughts fixating on Jonas's calm intensity, his quiet strength. Slowly, fear morphed into defiance, my heart steadying as whispers faded reluctantly into silence. When I emerged, fog dissipated, daylight harshly exposing dozens of muddy footprints circling the shed. I shivered, terrified but strangely empowered. A new strength woven into my psychological fabric, yet Pinewatch grew restless, escalating its assaults. Rules meticulously followed, only barely kept horrors at bay. Every day felt heavier, more threatening. One twilight evening, marking trails meticulously, the woods abruptly silenced. Cicadas ceased their humming, birds fell, mute silence, weighted and oppressive. Then faint whispers drifted from treetops, distinctly human voices teasing my ears gently, insidiously. Stop running. Stay a while. I felt breath upon my neck, impossibly close, painfully intimate. Panic surged immediately. Rule number 4 flooded my mind clearly. Hum softly, keep moving. I forced air through trembling lips, humming quietly, steps steady despite fear clawing my chest. Whispers intensified desperately, angrily, but faded slowly as I maintained disciplined rhythm, refusing acknowledgement. I survived another test, but each encounter drained my spirit further, eroding mental barriers slowly, methodically. Yet discipline and resilience began intertwining deeply within me. Fear, no longer overwhelming, instead transforming into determination born of necessity. Jonas vanished. That it happened overnight, quietly, unslimly. His cabin stood empty, untouched belongings scattered as though abandoned hastily. Unease twisted my gut sharply. I felt suddenly isolated, terrifyingly alone. Searching desperately, I found Jonas's notebook tossed carelessly and underbrush pages torn, ink smeared violently. My heart plunged dreadfully. Without Jonas's quiet presence, the campground's supernatural oppression intensified dramatically. Sensing vulnerability, yet something had changed irreversibly within me. Fear, though present, now felt like fuel rather than chains. Determined, I adopted Jonas's former duties, patrolling nightly perimeters, reinforcing defenses meticulously, each action solidifying resolve. Every day, supernatural encounters tested boundaries, pushing limits further. The campground probed my discipline mercilessly, seeking weaknesses, exploiting slightest lapses. One evening, whispers returned fiercely, relentlessly. I stumbled through dense underbrush, red thread snapping sharply between shaking fingers. Suddenly, lantern lights surged vividly through trees, violently bright, painfully alluring, almost irresistible. Yet discipline surged fiercely within me, muscle memory and psychological resilience anchored deeply, honed by relentless weeks of vigilance. I closed eyes briefly, breathed steadily, stepped decisively away. Lights flickered desperately, angrily, then faded into frustrated darkness. I had won another victory, deeper resolve etched permanently within my psyche. Still, I knew intuitively Pinewatch prepared for something greater, more terrifying, testing my resolve meticulously, strategically, building toward some horrifying final confrontation. The campground, malevolent yet oddly sentient, waited patiently for the right moment, confident in eventual victory. But as weeks passed, disciplined resilience became my deepest identity. Fear intertwined inseparably with courage. Skepticism transformed utterly into determined vigilance. Whatever the campground prepared, I'd meet it directly, strengthened, prepared. But Pinewatch was cunning, ancient, patient beyond comprehension, and its ultimate test still awaited, hidden patiently in shadows, waiting quietly for my inevitable arrival. Days had turned to weeks, weeks blurred into months. Pinewatch Campground, my isolated prison, became strangely familiar, terrifying. Comfort, its paths, now meticulously marked with countless loops of red thread, wove through dense pine forests like veins, pulsing quietly beneath ancient skin. The campground had grown as familiar to me as my own heartbeat, yet, beneath this deceptive familiarity lingered profound darkness, lurking just beyond my disciplined perception. Jonas's disappearance marked a critical shift. With him gone, Pinewatch intensified its testing, growing increasingly bold, relentless. The survival rules, now etched deeply into my every action, were no longer enough. The campground had begun deliberately provoking me toward mistakes. It wanted confrontation, needed me to falter, patiently orchestrating its own twisted climax. Sleep became fragmented, marred by nightmares where shadows seeped from cracked walls, whispered my name, caressed my skin with cold fingers. Each morning I awoke, drained yet resolute, the campground's sinister intent evident even within dreams. Yet, in Jonas's absence, I felt an unfamiliar responsibility awaken within me, a duty to uncover Pinewatch's secret. Something ancient permeated this place, something deliberate, conscious, malevolent yet profoundly patient. Its mysteries beckoned quietly, urgently, answers hidden within foggy woods, whispered by lantern lights, hinted by carvings on trees. One evening, following reed thread deeper than ever into the woods, I discovered something unsettling. Hidden beneath thick brush stood ancient stones arranged carefully in a circular clearing, moss-draped, emanating chilling silence. Runes carved intricately into stone surfaces matched those previously found, etched onto trees. Kneeling, I brushed fingertips against engravings. Cold seeped instantly through my skin, visions flooding violently behind closed eyes. Suddenly, clarity washed over me, painfully vivid. I saw glimpses of hooded figures chanting, in rhythmic unison, lantern lights flickering hypnotically as they performed rituals beneath a blood-red moon. Fog coiled around ankles. Shadows danced impossibly across trees, alive, hungry, malevolent. I felt their purpose intimately, devotion to something darkly ancient, timeless. Sleeping beneath Pinewatch itself, stumbling backward, gasping raggedly, the vision abruptly vanished, replaced by reality's oppressive silence. I glanced around nervously, certain I'd been watched, judged by unseen presences. The campground had revealed a glimpse of its hidden truth, deliberately, carefully. But why? Fear pulsed coldly beneath my skin, yet curiosity burned fiercely. Alongside it, understanding Pinewatch was essential to survival, and now my purpose felt clearer. Uncovering the campground's dark heart could grant power, perhaps control, or at least deeper discipline against looming threats. Days grew shorter, nights intensified drastically. I began systematically studying Jonas's notebook, decoding hastily scrawled notes. Hidden meanings hinted subtly beneath survival rules. He'd left clues, a puzzle fragmented but tantalizingly suitable. I realized Jonas had understood far more deeply than merely survival. He had studied Pinewatch's heart intimately, respected yet defied its authority. Following his coded hints, I unearthed other ritual sites hidden across the campground, each discovery yielding fragmented visions, lantern-bearing figures guiding lost souls deep into fog, leading them to sacrifice. Beneath gnarled ancient pines, soft whispers coaxing visitors astray, transforming them slowly into permanent prisoners of shadow, eternally bound to Pinewatch. Every discovery escalated risk. Dramatically, the campground retaliated fiercely. Fog thickened more frequently, lantern lights appeared nightly, whispers erupted violently, desperate to reclaim discipline's tenuous hold. Yet, despite escalating supernatural threats, profound psychological transformation had already occurred. Within me, skepticism was gone, fear no longer paralyzing. Pinewatch's tests had sharpened my mind, honed my discipline, forged resilience deeply. Each terror-filled night only reinforced my resolve, integrating survival rules into my psyche so thoroughly they became instinct. The campground had inadvertently trained me into a disciplined adversary, dangerously prepared for confrontation. Then came the storm. It erupted violently at dusk, a supernatural tempest. Winds howling furiously, thunder reverberating through bones. Lightning illuminated grotesque shadows, dancing violently through trees, as if celebrating coming violence. Electricity crackled, air thickened oppressively. This was no ordinary storm, it was Pinewatch declaring final judgment, challenging my mastery openly. Within moments, darkness fell absolutely. Fog surged violently across paths, red threads snapping helplessly beneath violent gusts. Lantern lights erupted furiously in every direction, illuminating desperate, twisted faces within fog, former victims. Souls trapped eternally by malevolence. Despair clawed at my chest, grief rising painfully. Voices pleaded urgently, heartbreakingly familiar, blending seamlessly with desperate whispers. Yet discipline surged instinctively, deeply entrenched, immovable. I forced breath, steady, pushed panic deliberately away. Jonas's notebook flashed through mind clearly, the hidden rule revealed only through decoding. Final rule: when Pinewatch fully reveals itself, confrontation, inevitable, face it directly, fearlessly. It thrives on hesitation, feeds on uncertainty. Deny it both, and it weakens. Our understanding dawned powerfully within me. Every encounter, every rule, every discipline had prepared precisely for this moment. Pinewatch's violent escalation intended to break me, but instead, I was ready, resilient, disciplined beyond Pinewatch's comprehension. Heart steady, breath controlled, I stepped directly into darkness, challenging Pinewatch's supernatural wrath openly, calmly, unflinchingly. Lantern lights surged toward me aggressively, shadows recoiling in confusion, encountering unexpected discipline. Whispers grew frantic, desperate, furious, yet I refused acknowledgement, humming softly, steadily, advancing deeper toward Pine. Dark heart. With each fearless step, shadows retreated, weakened, intimidated by my disciplined defiance. Pinewatch recoiled slowly, suddenly uncertain. Baffled by its adversary's strength, I realized suddenly Pinewatch was ancient, cunning, malevolent, yet profoundly arrogant. It had underestimated humanity's disciplined resilience profoundly, expecting inevitable submission, exploiting fear as its sole weapon. But I was beyond fear now, fully mastered, transformed, disciplined by Pinewatch itself into formidable resilience. The storm gradually subsided, shadows withdrawing into reluctant darkness. Fog dissipated hesitantly, lantern lights extinguishing bitterly. Pinewatch retreated, temporarily defeated, yet not destroyed. Still patient, still ancient, but for once utterly baffled. Yet victory felt strangely hollow. Pinewatch's mysteries lingered deeper beneath surface resilience. The campground, ancient beyond comprehension, had revealed only fragments, but enough for now. Discipline had triumphed, survival assured, strength tested and proven. But Pinewatch, eternal, still waited patiently beneath calm surfaces, quietly regrouping, already preparing its next move. Yet I remained disciplined, resilient, patiently vigilant, prepared eternally for inevitable confrontation yet to come. I was now Pinewatch's guardian and prisoner both, transformed utterly through relentless trials, disciplined through supernatural horror. Yet beneath this resilience lingered profound understanding. Pinewatch's true purpose still waited patiently beneath shadows, its ultimate secret, still hidden carefully beneath its deceptive calm. And one day, inevitably, it would reveal itself fully. Then and only then would final confrontation truly begin. Seasons changed subtly at Pinewatch, each transition barely noticeable beneath the campground's unending twilight gloom. Months became a year then, longer time measured only by my deepening resilience, my disciplined vigilance becoming an intrinsic part of my identity. Pinewatch, once a source of relentless terror, had slowly evolved into something more complex: adversary, teacher, prison. And now, after countless nights of supernatural confrontation and disciplined survival, Pinewatch prepared patiently for its decisive test. It had spent years methodically testing my resolve, meticulously probing my limits, waiting for cracks in my carefully constructed psychological defenses. But my transformation was complete. Discipline had fused inseparably into my being. Skepticism replaced utterly by a deep, unwavering acceptance of the supernatural's ruthless reality. Yet I knew intuitively this final confrontation would surpass all previous trials. Pinewatch revealing its truest, darkest heart. This would be no mere test, but a battle of wills, a supernatural contest for dominance. I was ready. The moment arrived during another storm, wilder and darker than before, its timing deliberate, symbolic. Black clouds swirled violently, blocking stars entirely. Lightning split skies relentlessly, illuminating the campground's eerie landscape in chaotic, flickering moments. Red thread paths shredded violently by winds offered no guidance. Fog rolled swiftly from woods, lantern lights erupting in all directions, countless souls whispering, pleading, screaming. Trees bent grotesquely under invisible pressure, their branches reaching like desperate, clawed hands. Yet this chaos was merely distraction. Pinewatch's true heart beat beneath soil, beneath stone circles hidden in darkness, ancient ruins, throbbing with malevolent purpose. Instinct guided me unerringly there, feet moving calmly, decisively, through violent supernatural turmoil. Standing in the stone circle's center, silence suddenly enveloped me, absolute and deafening. Even storm sounds vanished abruptly, air thickened oppressively, vibrating subtly with ancient anticipation. Pine Watch itself held its breath, watching eagerly, hungrily. Done. Shadows rose from the earth itself, darkness thickening physically, coalescing into towering figures circling me silently. Their faceless shapes whispered relentlessly, ancient voices layered deeply with sorrow, rage, longing. You've come willingly, they whispered as one, surprise evident beneath ancient tones. Surrender, join us willingly now, find peace. Peace. An enticing lie, beautifully crafted temptation carefully calculated. Yet my discipline, forged through relentless months, was unshakable. I refuse. I answered calmly, firmly, voice strong despite fear pulsing beneath skin. Anger erupted instantly, shadows surged violently inward, pressing against me, icy, cold, suffocating. Memories flooded vividly, every trauma relived instantly, painfully. My sister's death, Jonas's disappearance, countless nights of terror. Pain clawed at my mind, desperate to shatter discipline, yet discipline held deeply. Entrenched resilience, countering supernatural assault. I forced breathing steady, controlled. Fear was acknowledged yet disarmed, stripped of power. Shadows recoiled slightly, confused by unexpected resilience. Your fear sustains us. The voices hissed angrily. You cannot deny it. Fear, yes. I replied quietly, defiantly, stepping forward deliberately. But I no longer surrender to it. Anger intensified dramatically, shadows swirling furiously, threatening annihilation. Lantern lights blazed brighter, faces contorted in rage, voices shrieking violently. Yet, beneath fury, desperation lingered subtly. And watch for the first time, experiencing true vulnerability. Each disciplined step I took forward weakened the shadows further, resilience forcing retreat. Pine Watch's illusions unraveled, lantern faces dissolving, whispers weakening. The storm overhead, intimately connected to supernatural manifestations, dissipated rapidly. I reached stone ruins, placing hands deliberately against carvings. Coldness surged violently, but instead of submission, clarity emerged. Ancient secrets poured violently into mind, every horrific ritual, every tragic soul consumed, every victim imprisoned. Understanding brought profound sorrow, yet simultaneously granted power. Pine Watch, an ancient entity sustained entirely by human fear, was fundamentally vulnerable to courage and disciplined defiance. My mastery, carefully forged through relentless horror, represented its greatest threat. You have no power over me, I whispered softly yet fiercely, confronting Pine Watch's heart directly. I see you clearly, know you intimately. Your fear no longer controls me. Shadows writhed violently, furiously but undeniably weakened. Pine Watch's voice trembled uncertainly, desperately. You cannot defeat us, only delay. Perhaps, I admitted, calm yet determined, but you'll never control me again. Discipline has freed me. With these words, Pine Watch retreated finally, completely storm dissipating entirely. Lantern lights extinguishing permanently, shadows fading into reluctant darkness. I stood alone beneath stars finally visible. Resilient, irrevocably transformed, life at Pine Watch changed profoundly afterward. Shadows lingered, weakened but persistent, waiting patiently, still ancient, cunning and malevolent, yet utterly unable to dominate. Discipline had irreversibly empowered me, transformed fear into fuel, survival rules into instinct. New campers occasionally arrived, desperate souls driven here unknowingly. Drawn by Pine Watch's persistent allure, I guided them carefully, sharing the rules precisely, teaching disciplined vigilance. Each survivor emerged stronger, resilient, changed permanently by supernatural trials. Yet my battle continued subtly, perpetually. Pine Watch retreating patiently, waiting endlessly, confident that someday discipline might falter. Fear reclaimed dominance, but fear would never dominate again, not fully, never entirely. I had confronted Pine Watch's darkest heart, emerged disciplined, resilient, profoundly transformed by supernatural horror into mastery. And though Pine Watch waited eternally, patient yet weakened, I remained vigilant, disciplined eternally. This hidden campground had once terrified me, but through relentless supernatural trial had instead forged me into its disciplined master. Now, beneath quiet pines whispering eternally, I waited patiently alongside Pine Watch, guardian and prisoner both, knowing intimately that supernatural darkness could be defied, disciplined, controlled. Pine Watch had shaped me profoundly, painfully, permanently, yet I had conquered its greatest power, fear itself.